Ding strikes back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video where we are going to take a look at game 12 of the World Championship match being held at Singapore between the current world champion Ding Liren and the youngest ever World Championship challenger Gukesh Domaraju, which is being played from the 25th of November to 13th December. Game number 12, Ding had to come and fight for a win to come back because we saw yesterday in game number 12 Gukesh played a classic game and he just outplayed Ding and was leading the match 6 to 5, and Ding was in a kind of a must-win situation to tie the scores. And as we saw in the earlier games, Ding with both pieces is not taking any risks. He's just coming to the board and trying to draw all the games and trying to bring the match into the tie breaks where he is the clear favorite. But unfortunately enough, if he is drawing the rest of the three games, he is going to lose the match. So he was in a must-win situation and he did exactly that. And it was a very thumping victory by Ding. It seemed as if he was playing 3000 level chess and he gave Gukesh not a single chance. So let's dive deep into the game. He started out with c4, not the London system anymore. London is not good for winning every time, right? Gukesh replies with e6, g3, d5, bishop g2, knight f6, knight f3, pretty standard stuff, and d4. So we saw a version of this knight f3, d5, c4, d4 kind of setups in the previous game, which was played by Gukesh. Gukesh started with knight f3, d5, c4, d4 was played here, and Gukesh continued with b4. But this was a kind of a different setup, and as Black has already played e6 here, there is no scope of b4 in this position. Although I think bishop into b4 is not an option because after knight c6 there may be knight f5, but I'm not so sure. I have to check it up. So after d4, Ding goes for castles, knight c6, e3, bishop e7, d3, and d takes e3, bishop takes e3, e5, knight c3, and here already Ding has thought for around 19 minutes to reach this position, and clearly Gukesh is in his preparation as usual. He is very well prepped, and Ding thinks for 12 minutes before playing knight c3, castles, and Ding here plays rook e1. So until this point, Gukesh has used up only around 3 minutes on his clock, whereas Ding has used up around 37 minutes. But I feel that Ding is already quite familiar with these kinds of positions. He's been playing this from childhood, but he was trying to find out some ways in which he could fight for a win, because if he is going to play all the computer moves, then Gukesh is going to neutralize those very easily because he has prepared against the best lines, right? So he was trying to use his brain and trying to come up with a very unique plan of action. Now Gukesh continues with h6. Maybe bishop e6 was slightly more accurate, but it doesn't matter. h6, I still feel Gukesh is in his prep, or even though it takes around 15 minutes. I believe he was just trying to recollect his stuff. And after a3, a5, Ding plays h3, and Ding is playing really accurate chess till this point. And after bishop e6, he plays a very good move, king h2, anticipating queen d7, because queen d7 would be threatening this pawn on h3, and Ding is anticipating it and playing king h2 and asking Black, what will you do now? Now maybe in this position around here, d4 is the best move for white, but this leads to mass exchanges, and after takes and c6, this bishop is just blunted and by these pawns, and I feel it doesn't allow white to play for a win that much, even though white should be slightly better in this position, but I think it is pretty much holdable for Black. So h3 was played, bishop e6, king h2, a great move by Ding. And here Gukesh plays rook b8. Maybe queen d7 was a better choice by him, but he plays rook b8, and after queen c2, Ding is trying to play rook d1 and play d4, and also he has this great b5 square now for his knight, because the pawn has already been pushed to a5, so there black can never kick out the knight with something like a6 and a b5, right? So after rook e8, Ding plays knight b5, grabbing this very juicy score on b5. It also supports the d4 break, and Ding is going to play rook d1 next and then break out with the d4. Bishop f5 was played in the game, and after rook d1, Gukesh plays knight d7. Now I believe around this position, or maybe around here, Gukesh was trying hard to find a good plan for him, and it is quite hard for black to find a plan, and I think that's a justified point of view. And after bishop f5, rook d1, knight d7, queen d2. Here Gukesh plays an inaccurate move. He plays bishop g6, and the engine was showing that knight c5 is the best move here, but it's practically very hard to play, because after, let's say, d4, knight d3, there is this very interesting exchange sacrifice by white: knight into e5, knight into e1, and queen into e1, because you don't want to exchange queens, right? After, let's say, takes and takes, this endgame should be fine for black, or even better for him. So queen takes e1, and now the point is that these bishops are very strong, especially this one looking down this diagonal, and this rook is extending down the d file, looking at this vulnerable queen on d8, and the c6 knight is not doing much. It's a very big weakness, and these pawns on c4 and d4 for white are very strong. But still, in this position after knight d3, I believe white is slightly better, but this should have been what Gukesh should have gone for. But it's very hard to understand that black is doing more or less fine from this position. So Gukesh goes for bishop g6, and here already Gukesh was feeling the heat, and as you can see, he thought for around 26 minutes in this position, and 26 minutes in this position is already a very I believe it's move number 17, so 23 more moves to go, and he thinks for 26 minutes and 33 minutes left, so he basically has to make 23 moves in 33 minutes, which is a very hard thing to do, because in this match, as you already know, each player gets 2 hours on the clock, and they don't have any increment till the 40th move. So they have to make 40 moves in 2 hours, and after the 40th move, they get an additional 30 minutes, and with each move after the 40th move, they get 30 seconds extra. So Gukesh played bishop g6, and here Ding plays d4, and this position is the Ding feels the momentum of the game, and he understands when it is right to lash out in the center, and he does the right thing, of course. And after ed4, I think something like knight takes, and okay, maybe even ed4, bishop f4 is pretty strong, bishop f4, threatening the c7 pawn, and there is funnily enough no way to protect it, because bishop d6 seems very ugly. I can just take, and the d4 pawn is falling next, and the b8 rook is also attacked. And after bishop f4, let's say if rook c8, I think now maybe knight takes d4 is possible, and this knight is under a lot of pressure. And after knight d4, I think queen d4 is coming, and the b7 pawn is falling, the d7 knight is hanging, and there is a huge pressure down the d file. This pawn on c7 is very weak, and I think white is clearly winning in this position. Gukesh plays e4, which I believe is the best move in this position, and Ding plays a classy move here, knight g1. But I think it's kind of the only move here because something like knight e5, and I believe black is just a pawn off for nothing after takes. Yeah, knight e4, knight g1, and Ding is trying to read out his knight to f4 by e2, and maybe play d5 at the correct situation. And here Gukesh plays knight b6. Now here we reach a very interesting moment of the game. Ding has to protect the c4 pawn, but he has a lot of options. He has queen c2, queen c3, queen c1, or rook c1, or bishop f1. c5 doesn't make much sense because it weakens the d5 square, and this knight is pretty strong now because it's blockading the d4 pawn, and white has lost control over the center. And next up, I think black is going to play something like f5, bishop g5, f4, and this is going to be bad news for white. So, but if queen c2, I think something like a4, and now knight f5 is coming and putting more pressure on the c4 pawn, and bishop f1 doesn't make much sense because well, one of white's ideas was to play f3, and when you play f3 after takes knight takes, you want the bishop to be on this diagonal, right? And queen c1 also doesn't make much sense because it's slightly passive. I feel something like bishop g5 might be coming here, trying to exchange off the dark square bishops, and rook c1 is not something you want to play because the rook is doing great on d1, looking extending down the d file, threatening the d8 queen. So Ding plays queen c3, and after bishop f6, Ding plays a great move here, just unbelievable. He plays queen c2 back. What? Why didn't he play queen c2 immediately then? He could have done that, but now the point is black has f5, and then, as I said, bishop g5 is coming. Something like f4 might be troublesome in the future. But with queen c3, f5 is not as strong because there is something like d5, and bishop f4 is coming. There is no e5 square for the knight right now, and white is clearly better. Or f5, I mean, even f3 is a great move here. But with queen c3 is provoking bishop f6, and now he's going back queen c2, so that there is no f5 here, and the e4 pawn is terminally weak now. I mean, what a sequence by Ding. Like, he plays like he's the god of chess strategy, you know, and it's really amazing to see him back to his form, and I mean, I'm very impressed with his game this round. I mean, I used to love his games. I used to study his games very closely till 2019 and even 2020, and I think this Ding is the previous Ding, the vintage Ding is back in action. So after a4 was played, Ding plays knight e2, trying to go knight f4 and attack the g6 bishop, after which the pawn on e4 is going to be almost going to fall. And just look at these pawns here on d4 and c4, like they are controlling so much with the center here, and this b5 knight is wonderfully attacking the c7 bishop, and this queen is just tied to passivity because it's protecting the c7 pawn. And yeah, Gukesh plays bishop g5 here, and it's an inaccuracy. It's a grave mistake, I would say. Engine says it's an inaccuracy, but I believe he missed something here, and I believe what he missed was there is a knight f4, and after bishop h7 he missed c5. And the point is that if knight d5 here, white can just take knight d5, and after queen d5 there's knight c7, attacking both the queen and the rook, apart from taking a pawn. But what Gukesh might have missed was bishop f4, and here he thought maybe white is forced to take on f4, but he can play knight d5, but the knight is very strong here, and white's advantage is almost gone. But he missed this great move, c takes b6. Now what is this move? After bishop e3 there is b takes c7, attacking both the rook and the queen, and also the bishop is hanging. so white is going to win a rook for sure. And after bishop d6, um, sorry, I'm too bad with mouse. Bishop d6, there is this amazing b takes c7, bishop c7, knight c7, queen c7, and now d5. The queen is pinned here, and the knight is gone now, and this bishop is doing nothing. And this look at these bishops here, and white is clearly a piece up. And I suspect this is what Gukesh missed in his calculations. So that's why he played bishop g5. But after knight f4, bishop f4, bishop f4 was pretty much forced by black, and after bishop f4, rook c8, passively defending the c7 pawn. Already I think something like d5 is winning, knight e5 is coming. You have to be a bit careful, you can't take on e4 right away because there is knight f3 check, and the point is if you take on f3, your queen is falling. But let's say after king h1, there is also knight e1, and after takes, and there is f5, and it's reasonable for white. So you just have to be a bit careful and play something like, I don't know, maybe I can just take and then take on e4, and it's winning for white. So but Ding plays queen c3, and he says, you know what, I have a dominating position, Gukesh. I'm clearly better, I'm strategically winning, and I just want to enjoy my position in this game now. And Gukesh was like, yeah, I understand you, and I don't have much prospects, but he still fights on. And after knight b8, a pretty passive move, maybe he was trying to play something like c6. Knight a7 is wins the exchange, but I think what Ding did was much stronger, because this knight is far stronger than this rook. He plays d5, lashes out in the center, and after queen d7, he plays d6. Now cd6 is cd6 is failing to knight d6, attacking both rooks. And after d6, Gukesh plays c5, and Ding plays here knight c7, Gukesh plays rook f8, bishop e4, knight c6, and here Ding plays bishop g2. This bishop is just so strong. Ding says that I don't want to exchange it with this bishop here, because this bishop is looking out in thin air and it has no scope of play. But this bishop is looking now in this very juicy diagonal, and this b7 pawn is very weak. So whenever the knight moves, the bishop can just take the pawn on b7. And after rook d8, Ding plays knight d5, cd5, knight b8, another pawn falls, and after rook c8, queen d4. This is pretty simple win for white. And after d7, rook c4, queen e3, rook c2. Gukesh is still fighting, and after bishop d6, threatening to play rook e8 and take on f8. Gukesh plays f6, which is losing on the spot, but there is no defense for black anyways. Something like knight c7, trying to prevent rook e8 is losing to bishop takes, rook takes, and now d8 queen, and after rook d8, the rook is falling, and white is a clear rook and a pawn up, and this pawn is going to queen, and it's an easy win for white. And after bishop d6, f6, Ding takes on g7, a very pretty finish. And after king g7, there is bishop f8, king f8, d8 queen, and white is clearly winning. And so after f6, rook g7, Gukesh resigns in this position. What a victory by Ding Liren, and I'm really impressed by this game. And this is an opening I play myself as white, and I have always failed to find fighting ideas as white, and I think this is going to change the outlook of this variation in this opening. Like Ding is completely out prepped in this opening. He regrets playing this opening because he thinks that first that he has no fighting chance, but he plays a rook e1, he delays d4 so that the pieces do not get exchanged very fast. And after bishop e6, he plays king h2, very masterful move. And after rook e8, he just prepares d4 for the right moment. And after knight d7, he finally breaks out with d4, and after some maneuvering of pieces, again queen c3 and then queen c2. What a sequence, great strategies, Ding Liren, and bishop g5. The final mistake by Gukesh, knight f4 takes, Ding just enjoying his position. Ding is chilling, and yeah, this completely lost. And Ding is back in the match. After game 12, the match is tied at 6-6, and tomorrow Gukesh has the white pieces. I hope he comes back. He comes back emotionally, and it all comes down to the last games. And if those games are drawn or tied, they go to the tie breaks, the rapid tie breaks, and then the blitz, and then the Armageddon. And I am very very excited to see what happens in the final two games. And if Ding is trying to win, he does it, And I'm really excited to see how Ding fares in the last two games. And yeah, I mean, Ding while playing, his body language is so depressing. Like it seems that he's underconfident and he's looking at Gukesh all the time, and it seems he's suffering a lot. But his moves are like, oh my god, oh my god. And this game was like completely inching, like, and it's so funny that Gukesh is coming with a lot of prep, but Ding is playing on his own from a very early point of the games, but he's still managing to win. And it's a very remarkable um, remarkable achievement by Ding, to be honest. And yeah, comment down in the comment section below who you think is going to win the match. And hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll be back day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is a rest day, is the final rest day for the world championship match, and I'll be back day after tomorrow streaming about game 13. And yeah, see you. Have a nice day, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. And goodbye. See you. Hare Krishna.